For every one person that you hire who leaves, it costs a company 40 to 50% of that person's salary to replace them. Human resources has a very important word in it. Human.
Yeah.
Your employees are your human capital. And without them, if you're not willing to invest in them, they're not going to invest in you.
Today, I'm having a conversation with my longtime friend, Brenda Siri.
I am in the recruiting world. I'm a headhunter. I teach at the University of Texas here in Dallas. On the first day of class, I make them all shake my hand.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
The key in what I teach them is one of the most impactful things on an organization is hiring the wrong people. Companies need to really have a good. So I think that, that should all be built into a company's onboarding process. All right, guys, you just got in the elevator and you are standing next to Jeff Bezos. What do you say to him to let him know that he couldn't live without you on his team?
Right.
Welcome
everybody to the Marketing for Good show. My name is Teevee, your host and amazing friend. Today, I'm having a conversation with my longtime friend. I've recently decided to start saying it that way as opposed to my old friends.
Yeah, please don't say I'm your old friend.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
So my longtime friend, Brenda Siri, we're going to talk about what she does and why she does it, and get into a little bit of her life and her life story, as well as our relationship and how we got here today. So first off, Brenda, thank you for coming and being a part of the show.
Such a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So for context, we first met, I think it's over 13 years ago.
Yeah, I was thinking like around 2010, 2011. Yeah, something like
15. Okay. Because I had just started EDN. You were one of my first friends.
Yeah.
And we actually did some work together.
Yeah, we sure did.
Some early Facebook stuff. Back then, I think I did helped you with your Facebook page. I created a gate at that time.
Yeah.
You had to like it and then they removed it. I didn't even remember.
What I do remember was thinking that you were just brilliant because Facebook was still pretty new back then. The only reason I had ever gotten on it was to monitor my child.
Oh,
to
really?
Make sure she was doing the right thing on Facebook. And so then when I needed it for business purposes, I didn't really know how to promote myself or brand myself. And you came up with some crazy ideas that I had never thought of. In fact, one thing I remember you telling me, and it still sticks in my mind, is you said, why don't you create a Facebook page for garage sales? Because everybody loves garage sales. And look at Facebook today. I feel like you're responsible for creating all of those scenarios. Yes, they didn't exist. So that was kind of your, idea to help me. And I think you launched a ton of important Facebook pages that people use today.
I did. I actually, one of my calls to fame is that I kind of always push the edges of what's possible with my circles of people that I hang around with. So that was something that came to me. I said, because what were you selling back then?
At the time, on the side, I was working with a company that would go into people's homes and throw parties, and people would come and bring their old gold and silver and sell stuff. And it was just, a part-time fun thing I was doing. And I couldn't figure out how to market it to the masses. And you helped me.
I did. And my angle at the time was creating a community page. In this case was about garage sales. I created one for myself as well. I remember I eventually shut it down because I was getting people just joining like every single day, interested in garage sales. But the garage sale idea was, let's create a community so then you could easily plug in your service and say, hey, by the way, here's something I do if you're interested.
Right.
That was the basic premise. So thank you. I've heard several people that I met from back then tell me that they were always blown away by the ideas I came up with.
Yeah.
But that's because I always tried to push that edge. And so, I think I still do to some extent because you have to if you really want to stay out in front of everyone.
Absolutely.
Having said that, where we met, and this is another testament to something that I'm always beating the drum on, is networking.
Right.
We met at a group called East Dallas Networking. Like I said, you were one of the first people that I connected with and had a fantastic connection with. We did some business together and we became friends. What was your experience with the networking and just in business in general?
So my take on networking today is a little different than it was back then. Today, the type of networking I do is not going to groups to hope that there is someone there that I can meet, that I can do business with. And I think today, some of these networking groups that are just anywhere you can go to are really more about the individual entrepreneur who's looking like we were back then, Teevee. We were those, independent entrepreneurs looking to meet people to find ways to build our business. But today, those aren't necessarily the type of people that I'm looking for from my business perspective. However, I think there's tremendous value in networking, especially, when you're new in a business or new in your career. I think, even if you never get business out of it and all you do is learn the value of shaking people's hand and talking to people and making connections, you don't know what a connection will be like 15 years later. Right.
That's a fantastic point. And I think you hit on something that's really important, because I think a lot of people that show up do expect it to immediately turn into business. It may or may not.
Right.
And my take on that has been just show up if you have the time. Obviously, if you don't have the capacity for it, then you need the revenue or the leads to come in from it right away, it's not going to work out for you.
Right.
It's going to take time to actually earn the trust of the individuals in the room. But I do, for me, as an individual entrepreneur, it launched my business. You and a handful of people in the room started to hire me to do some things.
Right.
But the big payoff for me is the friendships.
Right.
To your point, like actually getting to meet people and who are doing the kind of work that you're doing and rubbing elbows and shaking hands. Because before that, for me, I was in grocery management. I was in retail. My last gig was Minger's food stores. If you're in the area, then you probably know about them. And then right before I quit was Fiesta. So I didn't know what this networking thing was and meeting and shaking. So it helped teach me what it is to actually sit down with other people doing the work. And from it, the long-term payoff is these friendships.
Right. And even more so, I think the long-term payoff can be, I actually know someone who might be interested in what you do, your marketing, and let me connect you, right? There's the long-term trust that you build in that friendship then leads to, potential business opportunities, because now I trust you. I'm going to refer, people to you.
We've been in your home.
Right.
We swam in your pool.
That's right. That's right.
Like there's some trust there.
Right.
It's too many that trust. It's been a fantastic ride. This episode of the Marketing for Good show is powered by us. I'm Teevee, the founder of Rockstar.marketing. We help small businesses and local legends grow with smart ads, scroll-stopping videos, and marketing that actually means something. No spammy tactics, no fake urgency, just clear strategy, creative execution, and results that don't make you feel gross. If you're building something real and want marketing that aligns with your values and your goals, go to www.rockstar.marketing. Let's do marketing that's good for business and good for people. And one of the things I also wanted to note, you, along with a handful of other people, recently have been popping off like 10 plus years. People that I knew or met over 10 years ago in the networking in EDN have been popping in my feed or been calling me, messaging me like, hey, what are you up to? Let's talk, let's meet. And it's incredibly fulfilling because those friendships were originally incepted, planted, the seeds were planted, the friendship was planted so many years ago. And there's this just ongoing trust because we met so long ago.
Right.
And I absolutely love it.
Yes, me too.
Moving on, I have to ask you a question. So let's be honest.
Okay.
Is that you that's texting me and telling me that I have a job? Are you trying to recruit me? I get them every day, and some of them sound actually enticing. Yeah, you.
You want to know something funny? On the way here, I actually got one of those texts from someone who works for Warner Brothers Television, and they were offering me a job for $30 to $50 an hour.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just got one right before on the lead up to this.
Yeah.
This morning, I'm like, oh my God, I got to ask her about this. Sure. Why do I always get these?
Yeah.
I get them from LinkedIn.
Right. So it's oftentimes a scam.
Oh, yes.
Right. The challenge for me, I am in the recruiting world, I'm a headhunter. So that means that my clients say, Brenda, we want to hire you to fill a very specific position. And then my job is not to just throw a job description in the air and hope a bunch of people will come to me. It's to go hunt and find the right people for that job. And it's very interesting because in the last year, I have sort of changed my approach when I do reach out to people. I know the first thing they do is they go on LinkedIn and they look at my profile and they make sure I'm a legitimate person. And then when I get them to talk to me, and of course, we're doing all this on Teams or Zoom, the first thing I do is I thank them for trusting me with my outreach. Because there are so many scams out there, and people are truly getting duped into some of these things, giving away, their personal information and really getting hurt by that, which is incredibly horrible that it happens. But yeah, it's real.
It's a real problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then throw in the fact that my last name is Siri.
You can't be serious.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't be legit.
No.
Yeah.
So I had to ask you, how did you get here? And did HR find you, or did you find HR?
Oh, at my age, I found HR. Back in the day, I mean, really, real HR teams weren't developed until, the 80s.
Yes.
They started coming around. And so you didn't go to college to become part of human resources back then, like people do today. So most people in my genre fell into it, right? In my case, it was that I worked at a company and the owner of the company really liked me. And he was like, I feel like you're good with people and you'd be really good in HR. And so we're going to move you over here and you're going to try this, right?
That's good on him for picking up on that.
Yeah. Yeah. He was a wonderful man. He's passed away since, but yes, that's kind of how I stumbled into HR. And then that same company decided to become ISO 9000 certified. And they were like, well, you're really a smart girl. Could you help us with that as well? So I've sort of had this very interesting career where I worked in HR for a while. I worked in quality management for a while and then went back into HR. So, every journey of my career, was interesting and helpful because I was actually an IT auditor for about 5 years when I worked for Citigroup. And I think that time did a lot for my career as a headhunter because it really helped me in a few ways. I know how to interview people in technology, even though I'm not a technologist. But it also helped me sort of dissect the quality of a job description so that I know how to interview people and know, how to tell what's real and not real, my meter for false
BS
information.
Meter.
Thank you. I didn't know if I could say that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, my BS meter is real. So, yeah.
Okay. And how did you end up striking out on your own? Because you're a big deal, as far as I can tell.
Thanks. That's what I hear. I like that. So, really, I got to a point of working for other companies and thinking that I could do it better. And the companies I worked for maybe didn't think the same way I thought. And so I just thought, what the heck, I'll give it a try. And it worked. Now, oddly enough, a few years after I went out on my own, I got recruited by a headhunter. A headhunter reached out to me and they were like, you'd be perfect for this company. You're exactly what they're looking for. And I was like, they can't afford me.
I love that.
You're good, right?
Had a situation like that come up where they tried to hire me, like,
yeah, can't afford me. But I was like, the more I talked to the headhunter and he told me who the company was, it had a personal connection to me. And I can tell you about that if you want to know.
Please do.
Okay.
I'm curious now.
Okay. So
is everyone else.
Okay. Well, at the time that I was reached out to by this headhunter and talked to about this job, he said the name of the company was called Securus Technologies. A month before that, I never would have known who that company was, and I probably would have stuck to the guns about, no, I'm not even going to interview. Okay. But all of a sudden, it was fate. because a month before that, so this is sharing a little bit of personal information about myself, but I'm the kind of person that I'm not really afraid to share personal information because that's part of what's made me who I am today, right?
Yes, I'm saying.
A month before that, my son, my middle child, had been arrested and was sitting in jail, and he called me collect, and he said, I want you to get a pen and paper, and I want you to go to this website for this company called Securus Technologies. They have a low rate plan that you can put money on that'll make it cheaper for me to call you.
Ooh.
So all of a sudden, this same company a month later needs me, right?
Wow, what are the chances of that?
Odd, isn't it?
Okay.
It was definitely fate.
Got your interest.
Yep.
My attention.
I went into my husband's office and I said, you are not going to believe this. And I said, now I just feel like I have to go interview with them. I just have to, curious. Yeah. So I went to their office, and it was interesting. Their approach was to have me interview with the people that I would manage first. And if I passed them, then I would interview with people that would be my peers and the person that would be my boss. And I went in and I sat down and I started talking with this team who had not had a boss for about 6 months. Their previous boss was no longer with the company, and they were sort of not looking for a new boss. They felt like they could do it with their own. Yeah, we're good without one. Right. But they also were a really broken group of people, and they needed guidance, and they needed new ideas and a fresh perspective. And they liked me.
Okay.
And I passed them, and I got through all the levels. And after that first interview, though, I went home and I told my husband, I said, I know this is crazy, but I think I'm going to leave you with the company, and I'm going to go work with them for a while. I think they need me.
Oh, you connected to the people.
I did. And I felt like I could help this company. I could really change the way they brought people into the organization, the way they looked for
you can make
employees. Yeah. Because, one of the most impactful things on an organization is hiring the wrong people.
Oh.
It's crazy. Did you know? Here's a fact for you, Teevee. I don't know if you know this.
It was going to be good.
For every one person that you hire who leaves, it costs a company 40 to 50% of that person's salary to replace them, because you have to go out, you're without someone, you have to go find the right person, go through the interview process, the onboarding process, and then train them. Yeah. So it can take, 6 to 8 months to get someone really up and going again. So I really wanted to make that kind of impact and make sure that I was helping bring value to the organization and reduce the cost of attrition that they were facing.
It's incredible that you care so much so fast.
Yeah. I know.
What is it? What is it about you, in your opinion, your background, your superpower? What created this passion for you to be so invested so fast, and to do it well? Because you pinpointed something clear that you could help with.
Yeah, that's a great question, because I'm not really sure 100% where it comes from. I think that in my college education, one of the classes that I took, there was this whole study on how different things are today. Back in the day, probably your father, I know my father, you would go to work for a company and you would never leave.
Yeah.
Because you would just spend your whole career there. And people don't do that today. There's a lot of movement, which is good. Honestly, I don't think you should move jobs every year, but I do think that to gain, perspective of other companies is healthy, because if you stay somewhere too long, you become indoctrinated in everything they are, and it's hard to make those moves.
I once read a book, actually it's here somewhere, I bought it just to have it. It was one of the first books that taught me about the business world, just to get an idea. I come from Oak Cliff back in the day, kind of rough and tough.
Okay.
Die Broke was the name of the book.
Oh.
And at the time, this is the early 90s, the transition was happening away from those types of jobs.
Right.
And one of the things he preached is to be a mercenary. Not every year.
Right.
But every 3 to 5 years, you should be looking for the next step up, to get a raise, to get a new skill set maybe that you need to add to your repertoire.
Right.
But he And at the time I didn't know it because my father had been working for that company. He was working there for 10 or 15 years already, and he ended up retiring there. He said, this is over. It's ending. We're in the process of it, and you will never have loyalty from the companies. If they can find someone cheaper, better, faster, they will. Yeah. So you should have the privilege as well of trying to do so, and it's in your best interest, and honestly, it's their best interest.
Yeah.
So it's something that's always stuck with me, and I stayed in the same business, but I always tried to leverage, take a next step every chance I got to eventually learn enough about everything. Yeah. So it's a fantastic view to take, especially not so often. And I wonder, what's your experience now in the current job market as you are trying to recruit? What are the obstacles you're running into that's more current kind of trends in psychology of the employee than before?
A few years ago, it was all about perks and culture, and does the office have a ping pong table?
Those are real thing.
Oh, yeah. I have had people want to know, does the company pay for lunch? I mean, and there are still companies that do that. They bring lunch in. In fact, I recently visited with some friends out in Seattle, and my friend's husband works for a company, and they used to give every employee a $30 budget for lunch to have Uber Eats delivered to them every day. But recently they've had to make some cuts, and that's one of the perks they've taken away. So I think that, some of those things that drew people in a few years ago are being taken away. So what's left? You want to work, one of the things I have a sort of a few last questions I ask people during interviews. And one of the things that I consistently ask everybody is, when you think about your next job move, what's going to be important to you in the company's leadership? And I often hear,
that's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a really good question.
And the kind of constant note that I hear from most people is, I want to work where there is transparency, where there is honest communication. If the company is not doing well, I want to know. I don't want somebody to just walk into my cubicle or my office one day and say, sorry, things are looking bad, you're out. Yeah. I want that constant communication. That today has become, transparency has become the new ping pong,
I have a friend who's been victim to that on a handful of occasions. Just in the last 5 years that I've known him, he's had somebody has walked in and said, or I guess Zoomed him, because it's a different world now, and said, hey, your job's no longer around. It's going to cease to exist or whatever, and you have a week or two before your final day.
Right.
And it's always kind of comes as a surprise to him, which, to your point, I think there's just you just need trust that they're going to communicate with you.
Right.
So you can make adjustments, and it's just, I guess it seems kind of obvious that you should include your people to make sure that they're able to adjust for life. Like, it's a scary thing. My friend literally is scared to death at every given moment, and then he goes long periods without finding a job.
Right.
Because it's a tough market.
Right.
What do you recommend to applicants? Because I know that okay, so let's segue into, what do you do at the college? She's a college professor.
University.
At a university. Thank you. Sorry. She's a university professor. I need you to flesh that out, because I'm sure I'm butchering it.
Okay.
Tell us about that position and what it is that you do, because I see your LinkedIn post and I'm fascinated by it and love what you're doing to help the next generation gain footing. I guess that's the way to put it.
Yeah.
And move on to the next step in their life.
So it's interesting. I teach at the University of Texas here in Dallas. So, great school. I teach at the Naveen Jindal School of Management. All of my students are international master's degree students, sprinkled in with a few non-international students. But for the most part, I'd say 95 to 97% of my students are international. When I get them their first semester. So they have just come to the U.S. They are here to get a master's degree. Most of them are getting degrees in data analytics or AI. These kids are smart. I tell them all the time, you're smarter than me.
Yeah.
You just got the look of having me up here teaching you. But what I am teaching them is professional development. And essentially, that means I am teaching them how to get a job in the United States because it's very different, right? Yeah. They have a lot riding on them, Teevee, when they come here. They've had to go through getting the right visa to come here and get this education. They want to be able to stay here and work when they complete their education. And a STEM visa will allow them to stay in the United States and work without sponsorship, meaning a company sponsoring them through to a green card. They can do that for 36 months and hope that they get a job with a company who will eventually take on that sponsorship. But that's costly for a company. It's about $15,000 a year for one person. So, however, and this has been going on for years. For years, the United States has done a lousy job of enticing our students to be interested in data analytics,
the STEM,
AI, all the STEM areas. And we're just now catching up to these other countries. But it's very different. And I'll give you an example.
Please do.
In India, and I mean, I have worked with so many students from a teaching perspective and being my teaching assistants. Okay. And they've all told me that this is true. You can apply for a job, and if you haven't heard back from somebody within a couple of hours, they start sending emails like, "Hey, I just applied for this job. You haven't gotten back."
I think I saw you post about that. You're like, wow.
Yeah.
The cultural difference and
very different
in a lot of things, including this.
Yes.
Wait, where's my reply?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Come on. I'm looking for a job here. And so it's so sad because they come here with that expectation. Mm. And then they'll be like, "But professor, I've applied for these jobs and I'm not hearing anything." And I'm like, "Yeah, because you're one of many people who have applied for that job, and it just doesn't work that way." So I have to really help them understand the perspective of just applying for a job. I even teach them, I talk with them about networking. We talked about networking earlier and the value in networking. On the first day of class, I make them all shake my hand.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
It is. So we go through the whole first class, and at the end, I tell them, each one of you, I want you to come down here. I want you to, because I teach in an auditorium. My class is about 70 students. So I make them come to the podium. I make them introduce themselves to me. Right. And, some of them are scared. They're afraid to speak up, and some of them are like, "I got this, lady. I'm here for the handshake. I'm here to let you know who I am. I'm ready." Yeah. And I will coach them even on the handshake, because there is nothing worse than going to shake someone's hand and getting that.
Yes.
I want to know, are you in this with me? So
I taught them when they were young.
Yeah.
We had a whole session around that.
Yeah.
Because it's vital.
It is.
It's silly, but it's to this day, but it's still vital. It's that first moment of contact.
Yes, exactly. So it's a lot of fun. And I do, I always let them know at the end of my class, this is the beginning of our relationship, right? Just because the class is over doesn't mean you can't reach out to me if you have questions, if you have advice that you need, if you're, in the interview process and you're unsure of what to do or how to present yourself, because there are a lot of different ways people interview people, especially in the technology field. There's a lot of companies that use actual testing, to make sure your skills are up to par. Yeah. So that's what I do. It's a lot of fun.
Sounds like it is. Some of the posts that I read from your students and how grateful they are for your teaching makes me feel amazing for you, because as an immigrant, I can relate, having someone actually teach you those skills. And personally, I've had to learn a lot of that over time. You just figure it out, but to have that, you're here and you have a teacher that's helping you through the process.
I teach them the elevator pitch. I mean, they get it all. I think the one thing that made me become so beloved with my students.
Ooh, this is going to be good. Please tell.
So the first year I taught, I get sent my roster of students, and they all do not have names like Brenda or Joe. And I thought, how in the world am I going to learn 70 students' names that are beautiful names, but they're not names I'm used to saying?
They're different with a lot of syllables.
And so I came up with this plan. I made place cards for every student. So I would not have to look at them and go, hey, you, when I wanted to ask a question or when I wanted to interact with them. I wanted to be able to call them by their name. I wanted them to know that I cared enough to get to know them. And I always tell them, I do every time, I'll be like, I know I'm going to butcher your name. So I'm going to give it my best shot. And if I totally screw it up, just tell me how to say it right. And, look, these young people have flown halfway around the world, and they've left their mother, their father, their families, and they've come to a place where the food is different, the weather is different, the people are different, everything's different, and school is different. And to have a professor who says, I care enough about you to want to say your name right means a lot to them. So yeah, it endured me with them, I
Absolutely.
think. Yeah.
I don't know, I was having a conversation with my girlfriend that I really want to punch on this, hit this hard, is that we all just want to feel connection.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's connection.
Yep.
And the situation that you described them in, they feel disconnected.
Right.
Obviously, they're in this entirely new place.
Right.
The intimidation, the just fear, even like, what am I doing wrong? I'm probably doing something wrong.
Right.
But to feel that a professor has taken the time to set up a system to allow her to connect with him through their first name, their name,
right,
it's beautiful. So it creates this feeling of trust. So it's a magnificent idea.
Thank you.
I'm sure it's challenging, especially Indian names. I have a handful of Indian friends, and they usually go by some nicknames.
Yeah,
because it's a really long name.
Right.
So it's good on you.
Thank
good
you.
on you for that.
Thank you.
Which brings me to this point again, is like you have something that every time people are picking up on. You had a former boss that picked up on, hey, you would be good in this role. You do that role. And, and a handful of other times. So, and I have witnessed it. I'm witnessing it right now. You're incredibly personable. You're relatable. You've soft-spoken voice, and it's incredible. And obviously it helps you excel. What do you teach the kids in terms of how to present themselves or how to speak? Or do you I feel like that's probably part of the course.
Sure. I mean, we do the elevator pitch, right? And that's a big thing because, again, they're scared and they have to go into an interview and come across as confident, right? Yeah. It's hard. And so I typically start off before we get to that phase of the course is I say, all right, guys, you just got in the elevator and you are standing next to Jeff Bezos. Because they all want to work for Amazon, right? They just do.
Be around for a while.
So he's right next to you, and you have maybe 30 seconds before you get to the floor that he's going to get off on or you're going to get off on. What do you say to him to let him know that he couldn't live without you on his team?
Right.
That's something that you have to really know how to craft. Yeah, you do. It's hard. And last semester, I actually had this one girl in my class challenge me back. And she goes, hey, professor, what's your elevator pitch? Yeah. And so I gave it. And I think that the key in what I teach them is you do have to feel very confident when you are giving your elevator pitch, right? When you are selling yourself to someone. If there's a lot of and and you don't sound confident.
Lost a moment.
Yeah. So, that's the key for anybody really, whether they're, a young person coming out of college and getting ready to go into their first professional job, or someone who's been working for a number of years and is maybe thinking about moving into a different field or starting with a new company. You got to sound confident, because that's half the battle.
Yeah. Nobody wants to hire someone that can't even get a sentence out.
Right.
or tell me what they do or don't do.
Right.
It's hi, me again. Yep, this episode of Marketing for Good Show is once again brought to you by me, Teevee from Rockstar.Marketing, where we believe good marketing doesn't have to be boring or manipulative. We help small businesses grow with strategy, storytelling, and the occasional well-placed GIF, whatever. So if your brand needs more attention and less confusion, head on over to www.rockstar.marketing. Let's do some marketing that doesn't make you cringe when you rewatch it next year. It's the first that's your business card.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Right.
So put your money where your mouth is, right?
I've never thought about that phrase the way you just framed it.
Yeah.
I don't hear it all the time.
Yeah.
Your money, your mouth is speaking for you in
Right.
cash and checks.
Right.
That's fantastic. And I think, to your point, they have to practice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The confidence comes through just the repetition to be able to get it out and let it flow. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. They have to work on it outside of class.
Right. Absolutely. And you'd be amazed. I mean, in what I do, how many people that have been working for 10, 15, 20 years, and I ask them one question, and 5 minutes later, they come up for air. And I'm like, look, I can tell you've got the right skills for this job, but I've got like 20 other questions I need to ask you, and you probably just answered 3 of them.
Yes.
But I'm still going to ask you those questions. And when you move to the interview phase, don't start rambling and telling your entire professional history, to answer one question.
Yeah.
Take your time. Let somebody ask you another question, because an interviewer wants to interact,
That's to discover.
Yeah.
Is that a fair word to use?
Yeah, absolutely.
As opposed to being monologued. Mm-hmm. Just let me ask the questions. We'll get there.
Right.
Awesome. All right. So next,
I
want to ask you about your book or books.
Okay.
I want to hear about them. Is there still related to the HR space?
One is a book that is really about the son that I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
It is a book about him, and it's more family related. But I do have one professional book that I am a compilation author on. So it's very interesting. The name of the book is called Lead Her Ship Unveiled. So it is written by 20 women. We are all part of, this is a networking organization that I am part of, that I do believe in, because it is all very well-established professional women in the C-suite who, we come together, we bounce ideas off of each other. So there is some trading of business as well, but a lot of it is just like, hey, we're professional women leading companies. How can we support each other? And, so I was asked to write a chapter in this book about my career and how I got, from a little girl to where I am today, being the CEO of a company. And every woman did that. And I thought, I don't know how this is going to work and how this is going to read, but it's crazy how it worked and how it reads. It because there was no collaboration. There was no like, hey, here's what I'm going to write my chapter about. What are you going to? It's truly our own stories. Right. Interesting fact, right after the book came out, and it did reach #1 bestseller status, both internationally and in the United States, which is really cool. Fantastic. What's interesting about it, after the book came out, I was asked to go on a podcast with 2 of the other authors who I had never met, other than when we would sort of have those meetings about where's everybody at in the process of writing. But I hadn't read their chapters. I hadn't gotten the book yet. I did order it, but it hadn't come yet. And we went on this podcast, and the host starts kind of asking us questions. And the craziest thing came out of it. Myself and the other 2 authors had both come from very dysfunctional families. All 3 of us, whether it was an abusive mother or an abusive father. Some of it was physical, some of it was verbal, but here I am with these other 2 women who we all at one point in our life felt broken.
Well,
and now we're all successful. And our chapters are completely different, but we had some of the same stuff.
Some source material.
Yes. So
I've this actually touches on something I asked earlier, like some of what we went through
Mm-hmm.
creates this person
Yeah.
who becomes a badass.
Yeah. Right.
Because you had to survive through that, navigate and manage it.
Yep.
So the fact that you said that about the three of you,
Yeah,
is not surprising.
Yeah.
You had to overcome that, manage it, people, resources, and
Right.
it became a superpower of sorts that allows you now to build something that you want to build on your own terms.
Right.
And that's hard.
Right.
But it's not as hard as the stuff you went through.
Right. Right.
That's the craziest part to me. Like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
The crap we went through, which will be, by the way, I'm also interviewing her
On the next show.
for the next show. We're going to change clothes. So we'll have a little thing for that on the Becoming Better Ancestors. And we're going to talk more about that.
Yeah.
But it's the idea of also connecting our personal. We try not to connect our personal with our business, but years ago, I came across this podcast from an entrepreneur that I follow and respect. And she shared that her coach told her, you should get therapy. She's like, why? What's that got to do with business? And she's like, everything.
Yeah.
Because that human still is in business. So working through that and realizing that stuff helped create this and help give you the power. Unfortunately, it was through some tragic stuff, but it helped create who you are and the skills that you have that you didn't even know you had until it's time to use them.
Yeah. And
it's a fascinating thing to observe from, 30 years later, 40 years later, as older individuals, like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah. It's interesting. You asked me a question earlier, which was, how'd you get into HR?
Yes.
Right. And it made me think about my chapter in this book.
Okay.
Because I was an extremely bright child. I graduated from high school at the age of 15 and went to college.
You're one of those.
I'm one of those.
Oh my God.
And because I was so young, my mother felt that she had control over my future, because it's not like I could, be an 18-year-old girl and go, here's the degree I want to get. So what I really wanted to do was be a teacher. I wanted to be an English teacher. And my mother was like, oh no, you're very smart in math. You're going to be an accountant and then you're going to be a CPA. Can you imagine me like as a bean counter? Is that what they're called back in the day?
You're a people person.
I am a people person. I am not a...
Yes.
Yeah. So I got put in college. My mother applied for me. I got put into college, and that was the beginning of the trajectory for me. But that wasn't at all what I wanted, And so I think that, once I got out from under my mother, I got that opportunity with HR, and I found this people side of me that I got to do. And then the blessing in the end of it is that I still get to be a teacher, because now I'm a professor at the University of Texas.
Thank you for putting a cherry on that. I was gonna wrap that up for you.
There you go.
But you did, like, you became a teacher.
Yeah.
So how does that young child feel fulfilled?
Yeah.
Knowing that she ended up in the teaching space?
Oh, and way better. I mean, to be honest, I wanted to be a high school English teacher. Kind of doing English. Kind of teaching English. I know. I mean, it's true.
To foreign students, you're teaching them English and culture.
Right.
I feel like you're doing a little of it, just twisted and remixed.
Yeah, but I'm getting them at a much more mature stage in life than high school students, right? Yes. So I think I'm getting them, I'm getting them at a place where I'm not saying I wouldn't have brought value to high school students, because I loved my high school English teacher, loved her.
Okay.
But I definitely think I'm bringing more value today, because I've got a more engaged audience. If that
they're
makes
very
sense.
invested. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They're invested, and they want to succeed. You want to help them succeed.
Right.
So they're, Miss Siri. There's a Professor Siri.
Professor Siri.
Fantastic. We're going to wrap it up. And I wanted to ask you a few questions as it relates to employers and people you work with and are trying to staff.
Yeah.
What are some common advice that that you generally give that is obvious, but maybe that people don't really take on, they don't adopt?
So advice to candidates or to the employer?
To the employers, to the people that hire you as a headhunter. Like, I need this person, or like, what kind of advice do you give them that they need to do on their end to attract and close on these individuals that maybe you bring them?
Well, I think first and foremost, companies need to really have a good onboarding plan. I'm a salesperson. That's what I do, right? I am selling the idea of that company to the perfect candidate, right? But if you get someone in the door and you can't onboard them properly, you're going to lose them. And then you're going to be in that vicious cycle of attrition. So I certainly say have a robust onboarding program. I have developed programs where I developed a buddy program, right? So maybe you're being hired in as a software developer, and I pair you with someone from your team who's a senior software developer to be your partner for the first 30, 60, 90 days of employment. It kind of trickles off as time goes on. But in the beginning, you need to know who the players are in the company. Here's someone that you'll talk to a lot from a different department.
Right.
Here's someone who manages a different department that we work with, right? You sort of need to know, here's a list of our vendors, and these are our most important vendors we work with. So if you're going to go to a vendor, go to them first. They give us the best rates. Just, tricks of the trade, tips that you're going to.
It seems like you're teaching in the playing field.
Exactly.
These are the people. This is the playing field, and these are the individuals you need to be aware of.
Right, internally and externally. Right. You need to know who your stakeholders are, and who better to get that from than someone who's already with the company and is on your team. So I think that that should all be built into a company's onboarding process, because it brings a lot of value. And when a person feels cared for, like they're being trained properly, like they're not just a baby being thrown into the bathwater, they're going to stay around a lot longer.
I have to draw a correlation between the onboarding for companies, for new hires, as well as my onboarding as a marketer. I do marketing. One of the things that when I first really started to gain traction, I realized, or somebody taught, that onboarding process is probably the most important part. Because it confirms the decision that they just made.
Yep.
Is confirming this individual's decision. Like, I just decided to sign off with this company and agree to this contract.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they're dropped like a baby. What'd you say in Hopwa?
Throwing the baby in the bathwater.
Baby in the bathwater, they're being thrown in, and like, oh crap, what did I just do?
Right.
Why did I do this? What did I miss? My girlfriend has had a couple of jobs recently that she's applied for, and the onboarding process was horrible. And she always said, I made a bad decision.
Right.
It just, you question it during that process, and then it becomes a nightmare.
Sure. And then imagine, I do all levels of recruiting in my company, but I do a lot of C-suite, so your chief roles at the top of the company. Imagine if you left a job to go join another company and you had a bad onboarding experience.
Oh.
Yeah. You're kicking yourself. Maybe you left behind some equity or some promise of some stock shares that were going to come to fruition. Right. And you took the leap of faith to go to this other company because I'm such a good salesman, right? That I talked you into going to this other company. And now you're finding out that,
damn it,
they're not onboarding me. They don't care about me. I'm lost, whatever it is. And believe it or not, I'm sure somebody's watching this thinking, come on, if you're at the C-suite level, you already know everything, but you don't. You don't.
I can't imagine. Yes, I might know roles or some responsibilities, but
sure,
at this particular company, and every company is very different.
Absolutely.
The way they run things. So it's still important. Mm-hmm. It's important in every, even just in marketing, onboarding clients, it's really important that you confirm that they feel like, oh my goodness, this is smooth. I've had a couple of clients tell me that. This is the smoothest it's ever been. I feel like I made the right decision. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And I would imagine that's essentially what you want from them.
Absolutely.
How successful are you at getting people to actually implement that or make sure that that's a part of their process?
Some people don't see it as the highest priority.
Yeah.
And that's a bummer, because human resources has a very important word in it. Human.
Yeah.
Your employees are your human capital. Yeah. And without them, if you're not willing to invest in them, they're not going to invest in you.
They're going to feel that.
Yeah.
It's just human nature.
Yeah. And then I have other clients who are like, that's a phenomenal idea. I have a client that I threw an idea at recently. They have locations all over the US, and they're sort of facing a challenge in that, people in those individual locations aren't feeling they're getting all the support they can from a human capital perspective. And I said, why don't you don't need to put a chief human resources officer at every location, but put an HR generalist, put someone at each location that they can go to, you know? And the response was like, wow, that's a good idea. Because people need to know there's someone they can go to, right?
Yeah. When they're sinking, or when they're just like not feeling confident about something, who do I go to? What do I? Which brings me to another point we can end here.
Okay.
Humans. Mm-hmm. We need humans.
Mm-hmm. You're going to ask me about AI, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, I use AI, and it's obviously the future and whatnot, as evident. However, there still has to be this human component.
Yes.
We're still dealing with humans, and we're selling to humans, and we're working with humans. At some level, there's always got to be a human involved. If there's no human, then you lose that texture of life, I suppose.
Sure.
So what are you seeing trending, or on your side, actually, for enterprise level companies that, as it relates to AI, and even the employee side as well?
So, you know what? There are companies that are using robots today. Car makers are using robots, right, to put cars together. There are robots out there. But when it comes to AI itself, I always tell people AI should be a tool to maybe help you think, but it shouldn't be doing your job for you. I interviewed someone recently who said, hey, so I've got 3 different resumes I had AI build for me. Can I send them all to you and you can tell me which one you like the best? And I said, you had AI build 3 different resumes for you. Well, yeah, because I wanted different things here. And I said, where is your authenticity?
Yeah.
And that's something I teach my students as well, right? There is no authenticity if something else is writing. You know, nobody has lived my life. Nobody has lived your life but us, right? We know the right words to put in the right space. Sometimes you might want to lean on AI and be like, okay, I'm trying to think, or I've got this idea, and maybe it can help you think a little bit about something outside the box, or give you a little different perspective, refine it. Yeah. Exactly. But it should not speak for you. You know, nobody can be you, Teevee. Your authenticity is really all you've got, right? Your integrity, your authenticity. Right. And I hear stories all too often about people using AI to make themselves look better. And so then that asks, the question, why don't you feel good enough?
Oh, that opens up a can of worms.
Yeah. But that'll be on the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
I think the challenge, or what people need to realize, at least is the way I'm seeing it, is you still have to show up eventually. Mm-hmm. The human being has to show up in that spot or in that space to do the work.
Right.
Or on those Zoom meetings or wherever. The human has to show up, and if that human doesn't match that resume or in that verbose and well-spoken, articulate version, of like, wait, what the hell do we hire? Who do we hire? Who are you?
Right.
You're supposed to help identify parts of yourself so people can hire you, the human, not because AI is not going to be able to do everything for you.
Right.
Which for me that's the reason I say the human part. Like, we use it as a tool as much as you can or willing to, but don't replace the human component.
Right.
Your story. And I've thought about that a lot myself, as I'm an artist, mm-hmm. a writer. Why should I write or do art if AI can do it for you? So that's one of the things I'm seeing bounced around. Nobody knows your story.
Right.
AI can't make that story up.
No.
Like, it has to be yours, and your experience, your knowledge, your expertise has to be you. And then go for it. I feel like you had a thought.
Well, have you ever gone to ChatGPT and said, tell me about your own name? Yeah. And so it's interesting, right? I did it on myself. Just, I was curious, and it was very interesting. But it's what I learned in that process is it's just all stuff they can find out about me on the internet, right? It's not about me.
Yeah.
It's about my company. It's about the fact that I'm a professor, but it's not about me. Yeah. And I think that's where the misconception about AI lies, is it can only work as fast as it can to get the information it can find on the internet.
It's not necessarily creating new information.
No.
It's not, it's repurposing, and obviously it's got a bunch of it's intelligent, artificial intelligence. But one of the things I'm hearing, and just as it relates to us, is it's still not creating from scratch.
Right.
It has to source from everything else in a way that at what's the word, at scale, at a larger scale, but it's still not us. We have to remember to kind of still keep the human in it.
Right.
Because if you take the human out, then what's the point? Oh, and just to finish the thought on the art, and in talking to other artists, it's the process. It's not about just whipping out this amazing illustration that looks like some other anime artist or comic book artist. It's about the process of the artist takes.
Right.
And actually hashing every dash and every line and redoing it over and over again. And that is the value for us as humans, to continue to create our art and our words and imagine at one point, if we're just AI bots talking to each other, I'm gonna send my AI bot to do an interview with you, Teevee.
Yeah.
That would be horrible.
Horrible.
Like,
not good television.
Not good television. Anyways, we'd like to end there.
Okay.
Thank you. Final thoughts, something you'd like to share with the audience about yourself, your brand, or just any piece of advice for employees, employers?
Wow. Well, I will start by saying, if anybody is watching this today and would like to reach out to me, my company is called Corporate Connections, LLC. You can find us at www.corporateconnectionsllc.com. You can find me, Brenda Siri, and my name is spelled just like the app, on LinkedIn. I would love to, be there to answer any questions that, a company may have about the hiring process, because the way I do things is very different than a lot of agencies that are out there. And I'm really committed to a very personal touch and making sure that I don't put junk in front of my clients, if that makes sense.
It does.
Advice. Well, if you're looking for a job, it's tough. It is a really tough market. It's different than anything I've seen in years. So my advice is this: don't just go on LinkedIn and sit and click apply. Really read the job description. Make sure that where it says, here are the requirements and here are the qualifications you need to have to get this job, that you can answer yes to those questions. Because I have people all day long who will apply to jobs that I post, and I think, did you read the job description?
No.
Because it doesn't look like you did. Yeah. And that's really critical, right? So make sure that A, you are reading the job description, but B, you don't have to apply for that job on LinkedIn. I personally think it's better to go to the company's website. If the company's name is on there, right? It's, what's a good company to pick on? Amazon.
Okay.
Amazon has a job posted on LinkedIn, rather than being one of the 11 million people every minute that apply to jobs on LinkedIn. Wow. Go to Amazon's website and apply on their website. Go straight to the source.
You still do that?
You still.
I haven't applied for a job in forever, so this is new information for me.
Yes, you can still do that. Yeah, 11 million people approximately every minute apply jobs on LinkedIn. So go to the company's website. To students who are about to graduate from college, rather than just throwing your resume up in the air along with your cap and tassel, make a list of companies that you would really like to work for, and make sure they're a company like that you would feel proud to work for. And then follow those companies, follow them on LinkedIn, follow their website, look at their job openings every day until the perfect one comes up for you and apply for it. And what I mean by like a company that you can really get behind, I'll give you an example. I'm going to pick on Chick-fil-A. Talk about one of the best ran companies. They know how to onboard employees, train employees, improve people's careers. They do a phenomenal job at it.
However the heck they put that together front to back is insane.
It's insane.
Yes.
They're so good.
Yes.
Sorry, Chick-fil-A, I could never work for you. You know why?
Why is that?
I don't eat meat. I don't eat chicken.
I was going to say, you want to work on Sundays?
That's right. No, you have to be able to sell the product and believe in it. And so for me, I couldn't work for a company that I have been to a Chick-fil-A with my granddaughter, but for me, I couldn't get behind promoting that because it's not something that I eat.
That's a fantastic point.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about your long-term career, think about a place that you can really get behind the products and what they do. Is it more important to you to change the world, so you want to work for a more philanthropic company, or is it more important for you to be like on the cutting edge of technology, or, that's kind of the stuff that I think students need to think about before they start looking for a job, so that they can go somewhere that's going to be long-term and make them happy and they're going to feel fulfilled by.
Yeah, and they'll grow.
Yeah.
Because they're invested as opposed to working for just anyone.
Right. Exactly.
In a year's time or two, that they will be disengaged.
Right.
And they opted into that.
Right.
They were lucky to get the job.
Right.
Thank you so much, Brenda.
You're so welcome.
I started to mix Brenda and Siri together. Brenda. Appreciate your time. I look forward to the next recording. It'll be a link to that one here as well. Okay. Appreciate your time. I love this conversation, learning more about the corporate world, and understanding what's happening. Because I do have people that watch the show and business owners that reach out to me. So would like for this to be a resource for them.
Sure. Absolutely.
I actually have one individual company that started with me. It was a law firm and now has like 30 or 40 attorneys, has 100 employees.
Nice.
And I think he had to hire a headhunter to help find his attorney. I know who to tell from now on. I actually had another attorney in San Antonio who just took off recently and has decided to really invest in building the company even further, and was looking for paralegals or attorneys. What do they call them? I forget the term for it. But anyways, finding people. And she said, I hired a headhunter. I'm like, if I had known back then that I didn't know as well as I do now, that I could just say, hey, I know someone, if you ever look for someone that you can trust, that I trust.
Right.
So we love that.
Well, thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Teevee. This is the Marketing for Good show. And today we had the wonderful Brenda Siri with us. So look for her everywhere. There'll be links and whatnot. And until next time, bye-bye.